Now that we've looked at how to set up comments for being able to use custom comment tags, let's take a look at some of the most common comment tags. So here is a full list of some of the most common comment tags we're going to need. We could output the class, the author, a link to the author along with their name. We have the date and time available, the text, which is super important. There's also excerpt, which isn't listed here. I don't usually think it says helpful, but in some cases it is. We could put out the comment ID, which is different than comment class. It'll just give you the ID, not an ID attribute. And then we could use get avatar to get the avatar or the gravatar of the person, which takes as a parameter the author email or author ID. So we could use comment author ID along with get avatar together. Then we have comments link, allowing us to link directly to the comments on the page, as well as a reply link, which will allow us to jump down into the reply field and know which post we're replying to. In addition to that, we have the ability to paginate comments, which may be something that's helpful if you have tons and tons in comments and you want people to scroll through different pages. And finally, a conditional tag that I'll just throw in there, comments open. So if comments are open, you may want to display the comment form. If they're not, then you may want to display a message saying, hey, comments are closed for whatever reason. So if you do close down comments on your site or have that as part of your setup and workflow, that is helpful to know about. So what we're going to do from here is we'll jump into the code and show all of these in action in different ways. And some of these things are also going to require us to hop into the admin area to control some of the settings. So let's start off and work through how we could implement some of these in our code. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is that I have it set up here. It's a little bit different than what we saw with default styled, coded a little bit differently, but works pretty well. And then we could reply to each of these and notice that they are nested. So the first thing I want to point out is that in WordPress, you have the ability under settings discussion to enable threaded nested comments. By default, I think they're like 5. I think 3 might be a different level, better level. You could decide what works best for you. So if nesting is something that you want on comments, go ahead and enable it. If it's not, if you only want people to respond to your posts and not each other, then you could disable that as well. So that's important, and then that will the Walker class will actually help handle that by default. So that's the first high level thing. Now let's jump into our comment.php template and look at some more code that's going on. So if we jump into our comment.php, we can see there's a lot more than there was before. Let's start breaking it down. First of all, we have the ID of the comment so that we could link to it directly, which is helpful. We have the comment class, which will output class and then a bunch of stuff inside of it. We've seen things like that before in the body. We're getting the avatar. Remember I said get avatar takes as a parameter the URL or the email of the person. So we can't just say comment author email here because that will echo it out. Get comment author email. We'll get this so we could pass it as a parameter into this and echo it out. That gives us the avatar. Then we're getting the comment author link, and this is pretty cool. It'll display the name of the author, but if they have a website linked up in their profile, then it'll automatically create a link to them. So kind of next level there. Now, next down, we are doing something that is probably a bit more complicated than it needs to be, but we're using something called sprintf, which gives us a string and allows us to do something like this, where we do :s for a string and then another string, and then any comma or any value that comes after that first one in order will be posted into here. So what this is saying is posted on, and then it will take this value and assign it to this first placeholder for a string. And then it'll say @, and then it'll come to this placeholder, and we could pass in the time. Now, before I was doing these all using comment date, you could totally format this, put out the date, but I just wanted to show that comment time is available too. So this just allows you to be able to translate, like in a translation string, I could say @ instead of the @ and not mess up any of these other variables going on. So that's all that's going on here. Really, I'm just trying to show you comment date and time. Then we have the comment text, pretty basic. And this is something new, comment reply link. So if we come back onto our site and we look at these reply buttons, notice that if I wanted to reply to one of these nested things and then I wanted mine to be nested there, if I click reply now, it's going to add this to the URL and it's going to jump us down to the comment field. It's also going to give us this cancel reply button to cancel out of this, and it will change the URL. So this is all some basic JavaScript that WordPress will actually do for you magically by default, which is pretty cool. So if we ever want to use comment reply link, we also have to add something to our functions.php file. And I'll show you that in 1 second. But before we do that, I just want to point out the arguments that comments reply link takes. First of all, you have to set depth to 1 in order to start having it work. And then the max depth is whatever depth you set it to, something underneath of that. So if you don't pass these, it might not work properly. This isn't super documented well, but this is, I just follow the setup and change as you need, just test that it works. So this is one part. Then we have to come into our functions.php file, and where we load our JavaScript, we have to add a new enqueue script for comment reply. So we could simply enqueue this on every single page, and this will automatically add all the JavaScript I just showed you, including adding the reply buttons and all of that stuff. However, what we probably want to do is check to see that we're on a singular page and comments are open for that, because we don't want those to be displayed, the link to reply, if we can't actually reply. And we don't want to load all this JavaScript on a page that's like a blog listing page, because we're not going to be able to use it there anyways. So this is just a little conditional wrapper, but really enqueue script, this is one of the things that WordPress comes with, comment reply, and that will get all of your JavaScript working. So that takes care of comment reply link. Now I want to show you one last thing which doesn't go inside of here directly, but may be helpful for you. And that is, if we come over to our comments.php file, and underneath where we linked out the comments, it is possible to paginate comments in WordPress. So we need to come back into our discussion settings, and we could see break comments into pages. Normally by default this is 50. I'm going to do it with one blog post, but I'm going to start breaking my blog posts up into individual pages. I'm sorry, not blog posts, comments up. So if I view this now, notice that it only has one comment, even though it says 6, and I have to go back to view the others. And it'll break them up by high-level comments so you can see all the nested together. So this is something that some sites do when they have tons and tons of comments, but there may be weird WordPress applications where you want to be able to control that and have them click through to see different comments for whatever reasons. So again, that is a setting in the admin area. If I uncheck it at any time, then boom, we have it back. Also notice that if we uncheck enable threaded and we come to our site, we can see that they're all not threaded anymore. However, they have all that metadata saved, so if we ever come back and change that, it will remember what was threaded and what was associated with what else. All right, the last thing I will show you is that instead of just echoing out the comment form, now I'm doing a conditional check to see if comments are open, display the comment form, and if they're closed, then display some information that say, hey, comments are closed. So let's say that on an individual level for this post, I was to come into discussions and turn off comments. If you don't see this section, you may need to enable your screen options and turn on discussion. But if I disable comments for this post, come back and view it, notice now we still see our past posts because I didn't wrap these in a conditional. You could choose if comments are closed, don't show them at all. But now I have this little message here. So that's the last thing. This is a lot with comment tags. Now, again, I said we didn't really get into the Walker class, which more defines how like nested things work and stuff like that. But this should be a lot for you to get custom comments just how you want them. So as you guessed it, up next, we're going to do some practice. So at this point, I would suggest checking out the links and checking out all the stuff for comments and the different tags that I've already gone over. Maybe watch over it again, check out the example files, get comfortable with it, and then get ready to do some real practice on your own.